What is something that is expensive, but only owned by poor people? Rent to own. Spoiler: you never quite own it. Single items of things that should be bought in bulk, like single rolls of toilet paper. Barely scraping by paycheck to paycheck means buying bulk is sometimes impossible. Dental problems. Those impacted wisdom teeth are hella expensive. I remember I had an old Chevy truck that cost so much to maintain and keep fuel in that I couldn't afford to save for another car. I literally kept me broke until I eventually joined the military and could afford a different vehicle. Crappy cars are more expensive than you realize. Bad credit. It is expensive to make someone comfortable enough to loan you money without them being certain you'll pay it back. Well, at my job there are a few people who I'm aware of their salary. They make around $25,000 a year after taxes. One of them somehow has a lifted Ford Raptor that I hear is like $50,000. He recently acquired a motorcycle too. He probably thinks it's cool, but he's likely eating the dirt off his tires because he can't afford anything else but those payments and insurance. The amount of privates in the Army who have just enough money to pay for their 30% interest 2018 Ford Mustangs, but not enough money to buy literally anything else is pretty ridiculous. Edit. They're to their edit too. Thanks for the ignite, kind stranger. Funny to me that my highest rated comment is about how stupid privates can be. A lot of kids. The poor are often very fruitful. As somebody who works at a gas station, Newport cigarettes, seriously, it's almost only ever poor people who buy them, and they're one of the most expensive cigarette brands we carry. Edit. For those asking how I know they're poor, it's something you eventually pick up on after working at a gas station for a while. It's hard to describe, but it's subtle. It's usually their mannerisms. Lack of preventative care. Cheap shoes or cheap mattress leads to more expensive medical care. Lack of dental maintenance leads to expensive surgeries. That kind of thing. When you can't afford preventative medical care, it catches up to you, leading to more expensive costs later. Bad teeth. When you can't afford a dentist visit and let your oral health slide, it can have all sorts of expensive health consequences, such as heart disease. Designer handbags covered in the brand logo. Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton. Slabs. It's hood rich and they spend so much more on straps, candy coats, and clean AF interiors. Looks dope, but I don't care for cars that much to own one, and I'm not from Houston. Excessive amount of anything, like Jordans, like $200 to $300 shoes. Did an eviction once and the guy had about 100 boxes of them. Edit. I meant excessive amount of expensive items they typically wouldn't be able to afford normally, and needlessly spend money on these items. Just paying rent. Where I live, mortgage is way cheaper than getting a house, but they don't give me a mortgage because I don't earn enough. So I have to keep renting expensive places, making it take even longer for me to save up. And in my situation, getting a better paying job is difficult. I swear this world is made for the rich and middle class. Poor people are straight up fucked in every way possible. Long-term / near constant stress and worry over money. Definitely expensive in terms of physical and mental health. The Toyota on the street that speeds down the road sounding like a World War II artillery strike. Loads of stuff. It's expensive being poor for a variety of reasons, including having to buy poorer quality goods and needing to replace them more often because of initial cost, not being able to bulk buy, predatory loans, and really anything that puts someone in a you have no other choice position. On top of that, there are things like cheap food being bad for your health and incurring expensive health bills later in life. Continuing paying rent on something you'll never own. Cheap cars that require maintenance more often. Being poor is expensive AF. Spinning rims on cars. Tattoos. They're not cheap, but somehow they're inked from head to toe. A low credit score. That shit is so expensive. Decent size house that costs about $200K. Being poor because they now have to pay the bank around $1K monthly and barely have money to take care of the house, electricity, water, heat, etc., and themselves. Clothing with a name brand on it. You pay to be an advertisement. Lottery tickets? Sure, not individually, but over time it must get expensive. Owning cars that are worth more than their house. iPhones. In my country. Toxic, unsustainable consumer debt that they will never be able to repay, no matter how many hours they work. Blink. For the most part. Yeah, celebrities sometimes like to show off a bunch of bling, but the rich people I've known don't aggressively flaunt their wealth. Cigarettes. I know more poor people who smoke than other groups. Laundry. The poor don't own the machines, but they pay a lot more overall to do laundry at laundromats. Really fat gold necklaces. Crushing high-interest credit card debt. Untreated or unmanaged treatable and manageable diseases, poor diets, inadequate access to education, intergenerational poverty and economic disadvantages. I list all of the above as expensive to own because not only does it cost the people who inherit the listed above, financially in the short term, but it often costs them financially in the long term to try to change their situation. Example or food for thought. Is higher education more costly to the adult that has financial and social support with no real threat of failure? Or is it more costly to the adult whose entire future depends on whether or not they can afford next semester's tuition and finally make it out of their neighborhood? Horses. In the UK only rich people own horses. When I traveled Latin America, all poor people had horses. Children. Outside of the standard one boy, one girl arrangement or an attempt at such, most people who have more than 2 kids tend to be on the lower middle class in my experience. Designer clothes that explicitly advertise that they are in fact, designer. Poverty itself. BC poverty charges interest. Can't pay for a new mattress? You'll have to pay for a chiropractor/back surgery. Can't afford a dentist? You'll have to pay to have a cavity filled. Mortgage insurance.